What happens when a royal guest thinks they can walk into a daytime television studio and treat the host like their personal servant? It only took 34 seconds for Prince Harry to go from honored guest to being escorted off the Loose Women set after making a comment so outrageous that even the usually composed Denise Welch had to take action. The morning started like any other on the Loose Women set. The cameras were rolling, the audience was seated, and Denise Welch was doing what she does best, making everyone feel welcome. She had that warm smile that viewers across Britain had come to love, her voice steady and professional as she introduced the day's special guest. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest with us today. Please welcome Prince Harry," Denise announced, her tone respectful but not overly fawning. The audience erupted in polite applause as Harry walked onto the set, waving briefly before taking his seat across from Denise. From the moment he sat down, something felt different. Harry's posture was stiff, his jaw set in a way that suggested he wasn't entirely pleased to be there. Denise, ever the professional, launched into her opening questions with her trademark warmth. "Thank you so much for joining us today, Harry. I know our viewers are absolutely thrilled to have you here. How are you feeling about being back in the UK? Harry shifted in his chair, his eyes scanning the studio before settling back on Denise. "Well, I suppose I'm here, aren't I? Though I must say, this isn't exactly the caliber of interview I'm accustomed to." The comment hung in the air like smoke. Denise's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered, her years of television experience kicking in. "Of course, we're honored to have you. Our show reaches millions of people across the country who are genuinely interested in hearing from you." "Millions of housewives with nothing better to do, you mean?" Harry replied, his tone casual but cutting. A few audience members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Denise felt her chest tighten, but she pressed on. Years of dealing with difficult guests had taught her to stay calm under pressure. "Actually, our audience is quite diverse. We have viewers from all walks of life who tune in because they appreciate honest conversation." Harry let out a small laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "Honest conversation? Is that what we're calling this? I thought this was supposed to be a serious discussion about my charitable work, not some afternoon gossip session." The temperature in the studio seemed to drop several degrees. Denise could feel the tension radiating from her production team behind the cameras. She knew she had to handle this carefully, but she also knew she couldn't let him disrespect her show or her audience. "I can assure you, Harry, that we take all our interviews seriously. Perhaps we could talk about your recent charitable initiatives? I know our viewers would love to hear about the work you're doing." "The work I'm doing?" Harry repeated, leaning back in his chair with an air of superiority. "Do you have any idea what real work looks like, Denise? Sitting behind this desk, chatting with celebrities about their latest projects. That's hardly what I'd call meaningful work." Denise felt her professional composure beginning to crack. She had interviewed everyone from politicians to pop stars, had handled hostile guests before, but there was something particularly grating about Harry's attitude. He wasn't just being difficult, he was being deliberately disrespectful. "I've been working in television for over 20 years, she said, her voice still controlled but with an edge that regular viewers would recognize. "I've covered serious news stories, interviewed world leaders, and yes, I've also provided entertainment and companionship to people who might be going through difficult times. I consider all of that valuable work." Harry waved his hand dismissively. "Please, don't compare what you do to actual important work. You're here to ask me questions, not to lecture me about your career in daytime television." The audience was now visibly uncomfortable. Some were whispering to each other. Others were simply staring at the unfolding drama. Behind the cameras, producers were frantically discussing whether they should cut to commercial. Denise took a deep breath, drawing on every ounce of professionalism she had developed over her career. "You're absolutely right that you're here as our guest, and we appreciate that. However, I think there might be some confusion about how this works. This is a conversation, not an interrogation. We're not here to serve you. We're here to have a dialogue." "A dialogue?" Harry's eyebrows shot up. "I was told this would be a platform for me to discuss important issues, not to be challenged by someone who clearly doesn't understand the gravity of the topics I deal with." "And what topics are those exactly?" Denise asked, her journalist instincts finally overriding her desire to keep things pleasant. "Because so far, the only topic you seem interested in discussing is how much you dislike being here." Harry's face darkened. "I don't appreciate your tone, Denise. Do you know who you're speaking to?" The question hit the studio like a physical blow. Even the camera operator seemed to freeze. Denise felt something shift inside her, a line being crossed that she hadn't even realized was there. "Yes, I know exactly who I'm speaking to," she replied, her voice steady but now carrying real steel. "I'm speaking to someone who agreed to come on our show, who our team worked hard to accommodate, and who is now acting as if we should be grateful for the privilege of being insulted on live television." Harry's mouth opened, as if he was going to respond. But Denise wasn't finished. "You seem to think that your title gives you the right to come into my studio and treat me and my team with contempt. But here's the thing, Harry. This might come as a shock to you, but respect isn't something you inherit, it's something you earn." The silence in the studio was deafening. Harry's face had gone from merely annoyed to genuinely angry. His hands gripped the arms of his chair as he leaned forward. "How dare you speak to me like that? Do you have any idea what I've sacrificed? What my family has been through? You sit here in your comfortable little bubble, making judgments about people you couldn't possibly understand. Then help me understand." Denise shot back, her own anger now barely contained. "Because right now, all I'm seeing is someone who thinks his personal struggles give him the right to be rude to people who are just trying to do their jobs." Harry stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "This is ridiculous. I didn't come here to be lectured by some provincial television presenter who thinks she knows anything about real hardship." The insult landed like a slap. Denise felt her face flush, not with embarrassment, but with pure indignation. In all her years of television, through all the difficult interviews and challenging guests, no one had ever been quite this openly contemptuous. "Provincial television presenter?" Denise repeated, her voice dangerously quiet. She stood up slowly, matching Harry's aggressive posture. "Let me tell you something about provincial television presenters. We get up at 4 in the morning to bring news and comfort to millions of people. We research every guest, we care about every story, and we treat everyone with the respect they deserve, regardless of whether they have a title or not." Harry laughed bitterly. "Oh, please, spare me the sob story about your noble calling. You're in the entertainment business, nothing more. Don't try to dress it up as something meaningful." "Entertainment?" Denise's voice was rising now, her usual composure completely abandoned. "Do you think it's entertainment when we help families find missing relatives? When we raise money for charities? When we give a voice to people who otherwise wouldn't be heard? That's what we do here every single day. And I suppose you think that makes you some sort of hero?" Harry sneered. "You want to talk about helping people? I've worked with wounded veterans, with children in poverty, with families who've lost everything. That's real help, not sitting in a television studio pretending to care." The audience was now completely silent, watching the confrontation unfold like spectators at a car crash. Some were filming with their phones, capturing every word of the increasingly heated exchange. "Pretending to care?" Denise's voice cracked with emotion. "I've been doing this job for over 2 decades. I've held the hands of grieving mothers. I've celebrated with families reunited. I've listened to thousands of stories from ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Don't you dare tell me I'm pretending to care." Harry rolled his eyes. "Oh, how touching! The brave television host fighting for the common people. Tell me, Denise, how much do you get paid for all this caring? Because I'm quite sure it's considerably more than the people you're supposedly helping." The accusation hit like a physical blow. Denise felt her hands shake with rage. "You want to talk about money? You, who was born into unimaginable wealth and privilege? You, who has never had to worry about paying a bill or keeping a roof over your head? At least I use my position for something worthwhile," Harry shot back. "At least I'm trying to make a real difference in the world, not just filling airtime between advertisements for household cleaners." "Real difference?" Denise was now openly shouting. "What gives you the right to determine what counts as making a difference? Because I'll tell you what makes a difference. Making someone feel less alone when they're going through the worst day of their life. Giving someone hope when they've lost everything. Creating a space where people can be honest about their struggles without being judged by people like you." Harry stepped closer to Denise's desk, his face twisted with contempt. "People like me? You mean people who actually matter? People who have influence beyond the narrow little world of daytime television? People who matter?" Denise's voice was now pure steel. "Let me tell you what matters, Harry. What matters is treating other human beings with basic decency. What matters is showing up and doing your job with integrity. What matters is remembering that your privilege comes with responsibility, not the right to look down on everyone else." "Don't lecture me about responsibility," Harry snarled. "You have no idea what responsibility looks like. You've never had to carry the weight of real expectations, real pressure. You've never had your entire life scrutinized by the world. Haven't I?" Denise laughed harshly. I've been in the public eye for 20 years. I've been criticized, mocked, torn apart by the press. I've made mistakes and owned up to them. But I've never, ever used my problems as an excuse to treat other people badly. Harry's face was now red with anger. You're comparing your little celebrity dramas to what my family has been through? To the real persecution we've faced? I'm not comparing anything, Denise replied, her voice now deadly calm. I'm simply pointing out that everyone has struggles, but not everyone uses those struggles as a license to be cruel to others. Cruel? Harry's voice rose to a near shout. You want to see cruel? Cruel is being trapped in a system that demands everything and gives nothing back. Cruel is having your every move watched and judged. Cruel is being told to smile and wave while your mental health crumbles. Then why did you come here today? Denise asked, her question cutting through Harry's tirade like a knife. If television is so beneath you, if we're all so worthless, why are you here? What did you hope to achieve by coming onto our show just to insult us? Harry faltered for a moment, caught off guard by the directness of the question. I came here to discuss important issues, to use this platform for something meaningful. By calling our audience housewives with nothing better to do? By dismissing our work as meaningless? By treating me like I'm your servant? Denise's voice was building again. That's your idea of using this platform meaningfully? I didn't mean. Harry started, but Denise cut him off. Yes, you did mean it, every word, because you walked in here thinking you were doing us some kind of favor by gracing us with your presence. You thought you could come in here and we'd all just bow and scrape and be grateful for whatever scraps of attention you decided to throw our way. Harry's composure was completely gone now. You don't understand the pressure I'm under, the constant criticism, the way everything I do gets twisted and used against me. And you think that gives you the right to take it out on innocent people who are just trying to do their jobs? Denise shot back. You think your pain is an excuse to cause pain to others? It's not about causing pain, Harry protested, but his voice lacked conviction. Then what is it about? Denise demanded. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like someone who's so wrapped up in his own problems that he's forgotten how to treat other people like human beings. The accusation hung in the air between them. Harry opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. For the first time since the interview began, he seemed genuinely at a loss. You know what the saddest part is? Denise continued, her voice now heavy with disappointment rather than anger. You actually do have a platform. You do have influence. You could have come here today and talked about the causes you care about, shared your experiences in a way that might actually help people. Instead, you chose to tear down everyone around you. Harry finally found his voice again, but it came out as a desperate shout. You don't know anything about my choices. You don't know what it's like to have every decision second-guessed, every word analyzed, every mistake magnified and broadcast to the world. Then tell us, Denise shouted back. That's what this show is for, to have real conversations about real problems. But you can't do that when you're too busy looking down on everyone to actually connect with them. The studio had become a pressure cooker, the tension so thick it was almost suffocating. Behind the cameras, producers were frantically signaling, unsure whether to cut away or let the confrontation continue. Harry's eyes blazed with fury as he pointed an accusing finger at Denise. You want a real conversation? Fine. Let me tell you what I really think about this pathetic little show of yours and everyone who watches it. The audience collectively held their breath. Even the camera operators seemed to lean forward, sensing that something explosive was about to happen. You sit here every day, Harry continued, his voice dripping with venom, pandering to the lowest common denominator. Your viewers are nothing but lonely, desperate people looking for someone to validate their boring little lives. And you feed off their misery like some kind of emotional vampire. Gasps rippled through the audience. Several people stood up, clearly offended. Denise felt her blood turn to ice, but not from fear. From pure, righteous anger. How dare you? She whispered, her voice so quiet it was almost inaudible. Then, louder, how dare you insult the people who watch this show? Oh, I'm just getting started, Harry sneered. You want to know what I think about your precious audience? They're failures, every single one of them. People who have nothing better to do than sit at home watching you pretend to care about their pathetic problems. The studio erupted. Audience members were shouting. Some were crying. Others were demanding to leave. The producers behind the cameras were in complete chaos, unsure whether to cut the feed or call security. Denise stood up so fast, her chair nearly toppled over. That's enough. That is more than enough. No, it's not enough, Harry raged, completely out of control now. You asked for honesty, so here it is. Your viewers are losers, Denise. Lonely housewives who've given up on their dreams. Unemployed people who blame everyone else for their problems. Elderly people who have nothing left but watching television all day. That's your audience. That's who you're so proud of serving. The words hit the studio like bombs. Several audience members were now openly weeping. Others were shouting back at Harry, their voices mixing into an angry chorus. The atmosphere had turned toxic, poisonous. Denise felt something break inside her chest. Not her spirit, but her patience. Her willingness to be polite, to be professional, to give this entitled man any more chances to redeem himself. "Get out!" she said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Harry stopped mid-rant, caught off guard. "What did you say?" "I said, get out." Denise's voice was now cold as winter, harder than steel. "Get out of my studio. Get out of this building. Get out of here right now." "You can't throw me out," Harry laughed, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. "I'm a member of the royal family. You can't just—" "I can, and I am," Denise interrupted, her voice rising again. "I don't care if you're the King of England. You just insulted every single person in this audience. You just called our viewers failures and losers. You crossed a line that can never be uncrossed." Harry's face was purple with rage. "These people don't matter. They're nobody. They're human beings," Denise screamed, her voice echoing through the studio. "They're mothers and fathers and grandparents and people who work hard and care about their families and deserve to be treated with respect. And you just called them failures." The audience was now on their feet, some applauding Denise, others still shouting at Harry. The scene had descended into complete mayhem. "You think you're better than them because you were born into the right family?" Denise continued, her voice now carrying 20 years of television experience, 20 years of meeting real people with real problems. "You think your title makes you superior to people who actually work for a living? People who raise children and care for their parents and volunteer in their communities? I've done more for this world than any of these people ever will." Harry shot back, but his voice was cracking now, his confidence shattered. "Have you?" Denise asked, stepping around her desk to face him directly. "Because the woman in row 3 volunteers at a homeless shelter every weekend. The man in row 7 raised 4 children while working 2 jobs and caring for his disabled wife. The lady in row 12 runs a food bank that feeds hundreds of families every month. So tell me, Harry, what makes you better than them?" Harry opened and closed his mouth like a fish out of water, unable to respond. The truth of Denise's words hung in the air, undeniable and devastating. "You had a chance today," Denise continued, her voice now heavy with disappointment. "You had a platform to talk about issues you care about, to connect with people who might actually want to help your causes. Instead, you chose to use that platform to hurt people, to tear down ordinary, decent human beings who never did anything to you." They don't understand," Harry mumbled, his earlier fire completely extinguished. "Then help them understand," Denise said, her voice softening just slightly. "That's what communication is about. But you can't do that when you start from a place of contempt. You can't connect with people when you think they're beneath you." Harry looked around the studio, seeming to see the faces in the audience for the first time. The anger, the hurt, the disappointment in their eyes. For a moment, something that might have been shame flickered across his features. But then his pride kicked back in, and his face hardened again. "I don't have to listen to this from you. I don't have to justify myself to anyone here." "No, you don't," Denise agreed. "Because you're leaving." Security. 2 large men in dark suits appeared at the edge of the set, moving purposefully toward Harry. The reality of the situation seemed to hit him all at once. "You can't be serious," he said, his voice now smaller, uncertain. "I've never been more serious about anything in my life," Denise replied, her voice steady and final. "You came into my studio, insulted my team, dismissed my work, and then called our viewers failures and losers. In 20 years of television, I have never, ever had to kick a guest off the show. Congratulations, Harry, you're the first." The security guards were now flanking Harry, not touching him but making their presence known. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every second of his humiliation. "This is outrageous," Harry sputtered, but his voice lacked conviction. "When this gets out, when people hear about this, they'll hear exactly what happened." Denise cut him off. "They'll hear how you treated ordinary people who never did anything but welcome you into their homes through their television screens. They'll hear your own words, Harry. Your own voice calling them failures." Harry looked around desperately, as if searching for an ally, someone to back him up. but the faces staring back at him were cold, disappointed, disgusted. Even the production crew, people trained to remain neutral, were looking at him with barely concealed contempt. "I want to say something to our viewers," Denise announced, turning to address the cameras directly. "To everyone watching at home, to everyone in this audience, what just happened here is not okay. The things that were said about you are not true. You are not failures. You are not losers. You are the backbone of this country, and you deserve better than what you just witnessed." The audience broke into thunderous applause. People were wiping away tears, but they were tears of gratitude now, not hurt. Harry stood frozen in the middle of it all, finally understanding the magnitude of what he had done. The security guards moved closer. "Sir," one of them said quietly, "it's time to go." For a moment, Harry looked like he might resist. His mouth opened as if he was going to make one final protest, one last attempt to salvage his dignity. But then he looked at Denise, saw the steel in her eyes, the absolute finality of her decision, and something crumbled inside him. Without another word, he turned and walked toward the exit, the security guards falling into step beside him. The audience watched in stunned silence as he disappeared through the studio doors. Denise stood in the center of the chaos, her chest heaving, her hands shaking slightly from adrenaline. She looked out at the audience, at the camera crew, at the producers scrambling behind the scenes. "I'm sorry you all had to witness that," she said, her voice now calm and professional again. "That's not the kind of show we ever want to have. But sometimes, standing up for what's right means taking a stand, even when it's uncomfortable." The audience erupted in another round of applause, this one even longer and louder than the last. People were standing, cheering. Some were crying again, but this time with relief and pride. As the applause finally died down, Denise straightened her jacket, smoothed her hair, and looked directly into the camera. "We'll be right back after this break," she said, her voice steady and strong. "And when we return, we're going to talk about something much more important than entitled guests. We're going to talk about the amazing people in our audience who prove every single day that kindness and decency still matter in this world."